Welcome back to the class, everyone. We as a community have not really been that shy when it comes to criticizing some of CG's interpretations when making our beloved Star Wars characters and factions into the actual game. We have the very notable Ahsoka's leadership that gives bonuses to Night Sisters. I guess she did help Lesage that one time. Or the fact that Maul was specifically built for Lord Vader when at that point in time, the only thing they wanted to do was kill each other. But now, today, CG is bringing us a kit that I do not think could possibly be more lore accurate, and it's pretty fantastic. And that is going to be Jar Jar Binks himself. And I get it, I'm probably a little bit biased here for the fact that I'm a major Jar Jar simp. We've talked about this character a lot on the channel. We were very excited with his initial release. We've actually gone to quite a few lengths to make sure that we will get him the first time around. We'll talk about that more in a later video. But right now, I want to take a deep dive into his kit, point out a few things here and there that I think he'll actually do in game, but more importantly, how accurate this is as a representation to what his character did, both in some of his comedic moments, but also in some of his larger scale moments that had quite a bit of an impact on the Star Wars universe at large. So obviously, he's a legendary. We've known that for quite some time. Support Gungan, we also knew this. He is specifically going to be outfitted to work with the Gungan team. That's not really a surprise. What is a little bit of a surprise, the fact that he's not going to be really working in any Galactic Republic team in any fashion. There were some of us out there who thought he might get that tag. I guess that means there's maybe a little bit of room for a Senator Jar Jar down the line, specifically with Galactic Republic, maybe with Bail Organa and Senator Palpatine. But I guess maybe I'm pushing my Phantom Menace envelope just a little too much there. So obviously he's going to complete the rest of the Gungan faction. After all, right now, they're not really all that well put together. And I don't say that because they're bad. I say that because there's 4 of them in a 5-person game. But getting back to Jar Jar's kit, first of all, animations are on point. Like, this is... This is just great. His basically does a special damage to all enemies, which the special damage is, that's fine, that's good, whatever. But what's more important, this is one of the very, very, very few basics that is going to be dealing AoE damage. I guess we can stick it up there with Starkiller if you have a Zeta applied and it is on his own turn. But actually getting into the meat of this, you are going to... On his turn, 1 of 3 effects will occur. And it doesn't really seem to be a hierarchy of which ones happen, which ones don't happen. It really seems like it's a 33.3% chance for any one of these things to happen. And granted, they're all pretty good, and I could see it being advantageous for any one of them to happen in a number of counters, both using this team defensively or offensively. Tenacity up to all enemies is always good. Damage immunity to the weakest, that makes a ton of sense. Death mark to the healthiest enemy also makes a ton of sense. The only thing is it can be dispelled. It can't be resisted, but it can be dispelled, which makes this a little bit awkward because there's like a bajillion callouts to how this is a very anti-separatist team, but it would be really great if the death mark couldn't be dispelled from Grievous and we could just kill him, actually much like the Gungans do in the Clone Wars series. But getting onto the lower accurate parts of this, additionally, this attack has a 0.1% chance, or 0.01% chance to instantly defeat a random enemy, which can't be evaded. And increased to a 1% chance if there are any separatist enemies, this attack can't be countered, which I guess this part would hopefully apply to this top part. Although I guess if it's trying to kill a Galactic Legend, that Galactic Legend could try to hit them back because they take reduced damage. Anyways, so this is actually pretty interesting. This line here, increased to 1% if there are any separatist enemies. This really makes me think that if you're fighting, say, a Night Sister team, which is not primarily separatist, but will have Asajj Ventress on it, who is separatist, that this check will happen every single time. I guess I'd actually have to dig into what his kit is doing on .gg to see if that's accurate. But that's really what this seems like to me, or maybe if you put Jango Fett on a bounty hunter team, this will also end up applying, but that's something we can look into later. And yeah, this overall just spells to the overall randomness of what Jar Jar was doing, both in the Clone Wars series as well as the movies. He would probably throw a Booma, and that Booma would just do something normal, like destroy a droid or miss and hit a droid that he wouldn't have intended. But there was the very, very small chance that the Booma would go off and hit a ship, and that ship would collapse, and it would go right into a power generator, and that would blow up half of the planet. So just very accurate to what who his character was, where probably wasn't going to happen, but every once in a while something absolutely ridiculous would just completely happen. And oh, now we have big boomas. So this one right here, overall, we see another AoE damage if target had protection, stun them, otherwise inflict them 3 stacks of expose. This is actually really cool because if they don't have protection, it means they're very vulnerable to exposes, whereas you have some characters who have a very thick protection wall that you have to get through. Sometimes the exposes don't mean much at all, so you get to stun them. And then again, we see this 0.01% chance all enemies lose all tournament are inflicted with fear, which can't be copied, dispelled, prevented, or resisted. Again, with the separatist interaction, if all eyes are guns, all enemies are inflicted with plasma residue for winter, which can't be copied. So this probably isn't as big as an instant defeat, but this could definitely change the course of a battle depending on what you're going against and whether or not you really had a chance to kill them at all in the first place. There are some teams out there where you could reset the turn meter from 100% to 0%, and they'll still beat you just because you don't have the tools to be able to take down, whether it be copious amounts of defense or just a ton of debilitating debuffs that happen in a passive nature. Plasma residue, this character loses 100% evasion. Very nice. That's good. Basically what this means is it kills any dodge meta ever. If this character becomes inflicted with shock, deal reduced massive damage to all enemies. Okay, even better. Yeah, this is like the cherry on top, because when we look at the Gungan faction at large of what they were already doing in game, they've already been causing a ton of problems with the shield generator that make them very hard to kill. The one caveat to that is that there was a really easy way to cheese hitting underneath their shield because all their health is getting reduced with, say, Sith Assassin or with Night Sisters using Plague. This is going to change that, because not only is Jar Jar going to come in and make the team just generically better because he's a 5th and he has abilities, but on top of that, he's going to be able to stop a lot of that stuff from happening because they won't be able to lose their health. So this is really interesting to see from a competitive standpoint, not just from a lore standpoint, that he's going to be making the team quite a bit better. And I will say, we'll do a much deeper analysis of this at some point, but all 3 of his GAC Omicrons look to have good arguments for them. Again, we'll try to give a more sophisticated response to that before he comes out, and I will be applying all 3, but that really will be done out of love and not at all out of strategy of value, which is our typical MO when it comes to most of this type of stuff. Now he's got another special ability, which is going to again do many different things, including apply the frustration debuff, which this is pretty cheeky. This is cool. Not only is it going to do nice things like can assist or counterattack, or whenever this character gains bonus turn, remove 2 stacks of recharge, yada yada yada, but particularly the number 3 special abilities are unusable for 1 attack. Remove all stacks of frustration after this attack. So this is a big deal, because this sounds like a really long-winded way of saying ability block, but what's really important is that it doesn't actually say ability block, because there are several characters out there that are either immune to ability block entirely, or they get to dispel it and it becomes something else like ferocity under the Sith Empire team. So this is going to essentially bypass it by using the same mechanic except over again. It's the same thing like when we saw, oh, this permakill someone, and then we get a character that survives permakills, and we just keep going on in this endless cycle forever and ever. So that is cool. That is going to definitely change some things. I think we did want to talk a little bit about this last ability as well. Protect whenever they're all Gungans, dispel bonus protection up on all, and lose 5% max health and max protection. This is going to be really nice for trying to get out of timeouts or timeout situations. And then finally moving on to his unique ability. I like this one quite a bit too, actually. This is to me, this is again going to be the Grand Arena Omicron. This is what's going to help make it an end game team. For anyone who is not familiar, the Seer Malicos team is one of the best teams in GAC right now, especially after you consider teams that aren't Galactic Legends. And one of the reasons why is because they either have a way to dispel or just a flat out immunities to some of the most common debuffs out there. And Daze and Stun definitely fit into that very well. Stagger not so much, but I mean, that's fine. We can lump that in too. And not only will they dispel it, but we'll gain shield up in its place. So this is a pretty good deal overall, what he's going to be adding to the team. Also, they gave him 1,000% evasion. I don't know if whoever's doing the coding is just being more transparent, but this to me just seems so wildly goofy. Because we've had characters and abilities before who, when you get down to the coding, will have like 200%, you know, critical chance or 300% damage or whatever it is. They don't tell us that though. They'll just tell us like Jar Jar cannot be hit while or whenever, you know, this condition here, if there is an active ally shield generator. But the fact that they flat out told us it's straight up 1000% to me is hilarious. And then whenever a character gains bonus turn, Mirror Jar Jar has a 1% chance of gaining a bonus turn, increased 10% chance if it's an enemy. Okay, that makes a ton of sense. Whenever this effect occurs, Jar Jar can't gain another bonus turn for this ability for 2 turns, which I guess they're trying to prevent Jar Jar from taking infinite amount of turns, which I guess is probably good for game health. Gungan allies have a 75% accuracy in the second unit Mui Mui. The enemy leader is Separatist, which I guess can happen in three different teams, so that's okay. Start of the encounter, all Gungan allies have 50% max protection. Very nice, very good. More stuff with frustration, even better. And then the final GAC Omicron, which is going to bode very well for my R9 Jar Jar, which will be happening. At the start of the first turn, the ally shield generator gains 2 stacks of plasma shielding for every 3 relic levels Jar Jar has, so 3, 6, 9, do the math. Whenever a non-Gungan enemy gains damage immunity, all Gungan allies gain damage immunity for 1 turn, so Droideka, thank you very much. And whenever a Gungan ally gains a bonus turn from this ability, they gain 5% mastery until the end of the encounter. That's actually a really big deal. Again, going back to the Sir Malicos team or even other similar teams, ones that are typically aimed at beating Galactic Legends or Galactic Legend strength teams have some type of mastery boosting to be able to compete with them. Now, there were some no Galactic Legend caveats in this kit, so it makes me a little bit worried that they're not really aimed in the same way that Starkiller or Malgus or Malicos or even Bane were, and the fact that they're not going to be aimed to take on Galactic Legends, but that 100% is going to be the challenge of our channel. And in fact, one of the things that we don't typically do, but we will be making a special exception for this time around, is I will be live streaming both on YouTube and on Twitch for the Jar Jar event unlock. I've already requested the time off work specifically to do so. It's kind of a big deal, and I want to be able to get right in there and be able to immediately test what we have going on with Jar Jar, what it's going to be good against, how to beat the event, and everything that comes along with it. Because quite frankly, we've waited a really long time for this to happen, and I'm really excited to be a part of it finally happening. One last thing that I do want to point out in this kit that again kind of goes back to the whole point of this video and how Jar Jar was just so well done as far as lore accuracy goes, is the fact that he not only debuffs himself, but then he's going to leverage those debuffs on himself to better benefit his team. And what I'm specifically calling out is the fact that he can death mark himself until he receives damage or evades an attack. And the fact that, again, we have this very goofy 1000% evasion, it pretty much turns him into the ultimate evasion tank. And this is exactly what I wanted out of this character. In my mind, it was going to look very different. Jar Jar himself would have taunt. He would have some reasonable amount of evasion, like 50%, and then maybe he would apply confuse on the enemy whenever they would miss. But it pretty much worked out the exact same, just with different names. Instead of taunt, it's death mark. Instead of 50, it's 1000. And then instead of confusion, it is going to end up being frustration. So overall, really great kit design, very different, very new. We'll probably never see anything quite like it. And ultimately, I'm just really happy to see this character finally coming to the holotables after all these years and being done in a way that I think reflects him accurately and in a way that I think will actually make him quite good and also the rest of the Gungan. So thank you guys for watching. CG, thank you for bringing this character to the game. Until the next time, stay awesome.